Thanks. So the question is, are IPv6 only IXPs coming? So what is this about? So about 7 years ago, there was an RFC released that specified a way to announce IPv4 routes using IPv6 next hops over BGP. It's been updated recently by a little bit newer RFC 8950. And when 8950 was released, a couple of IXPs in Europe started looking at it from the point of view of, is it starting to get implementations? And we noticed that there were, at that point, surprisingly many implementations already. At first, when 5549 arrived, it was basically Linux routing daemons, a few of those that supported it. But now there are actual routers, physical routers, that also support it. So that's sort of what got us going. So what basically, why would anyone use this? Well, it allows you to eliminate a lot of IP addresses from your backbone. So all your link addressing can be eliminated. You still need one IPv4 address for the loopback interface so that you can send ICMP errors from some unique source address per router. But and there might be various other uses for having just that one IPv4 address on every router. But you no longer need to have an address on all links. Well, there was IP unnumbered before as well, but this eliminates it in another way. So basically, since the IPv4 routes in the routing table will have IPv6 next hops, that means that when normally IPv4 traffic, for you to be able to send it to another router, the router needs to send an ARP query to the other router to figure out what the MAC address is, so that it can construct the Ethernet frame. That is replaced by IPv6 neighbor discovery. And then you can figure out the MAC address from that and continue as usual. So, but IXPs, why? IXPs, most of IXPs already have a lot of IPv4 addresses, and RIPE even has a special address assignment policy for IXPs that guarantees that IXPs can get IPv4 addresses even when nobody else can. So why am I rocking the boat? Well, the point here is that renumbering an IXP is painful. So Lynx, one of the biggest IXPs in the world, renumbered from a /21 to /21 a little over 2 years ago. Are there any people here who remember how that process went, or who are connected to Lynx at all? Okay, a few people remember that. Before that, they renumbered a decade earlier. Anyone remember that? Yes, I sort of thought you might. And the first time they renumbered was 1997. So they have a lot of experience. Thanks to Moyazi from Lynx for helping me with the dates. France IX, when I talk about renumbering being painful, Radu Adrian from France IX gave me the anecdote that they started renumbering in January 2019, and they were finished with the renumbering in the winter between 2020 and 21. So it took them almost 2 years to renumber. Netnod, who is our gracious host, has never renumbered to gain more address space, but they have renumbered in Copenhagen for other reasons. So rather than going through the pain of renumbering only to maybe go through the pain again a decade later or a few years later, the idea with what I'm presenting here is that you could renumber one final time and then never have to renumber again, because the IPv6 addresses on a subnet are pretty limitless. Well, there is a physical limit, but it is so large that it's ludicrous. So basically, switching to using this method from IPv4 next hops will allow you to never have to think about renumbering again. So NICs, there are lots of exchange points called NICs. This one is in Prague, in Czechia, and they have a Phoenix subnet where they are testing it. So in the mid-February, they had 6 members with 12 sessions and a little over 100 prefixes that were using this, and that they've been testing it over there. They found some issues with interoperability with a few different vendors. TREX, my employer in Tampere, is also testing it. And then there are some lab tests at other big IXPs as well. But then, what about new IXPs? So, as I mentioned, RIPE has the assignment policy that guarantees that IXPs can get IPv4 addresses if they need. But it was just changed last year, I think, or the year before, so that new IXPs can only get a /26 by default, which means that to reach the traditional /24 that most IXPs have started with, they have to renumber twice. So why plan for that? That's sort of the point. So what if you start a new IXP, what if you start it with no IPv4 from day one? So TREX, my employer, just started a new IXP this winter in Turku, or Åbo for the Swedes here. And we are testing this approach, that we don't have IPv4 addresses at TREX Turku at all. Our route servers there already support this RFC, and there are a couple of sessions between the first members and our own routers that exchange routes using this RFC 8950. So, as I mentioned, a few European IXPs started looking at this year or two ago. So EurIX is the Association for European IXPs. Netnod, for example, is a member, and most bigger European IXPs are members of the association. They've got working groups. So this particular working group is chaired by Andre Grüneberg and me. And there are active members from, for example, DKIX, Lynx, NICCZ, a lot of other IXPs as well. But there's also members from NICCZ, which is the organization that writes Bird routing daemon, NetDef, who writes FRR, the ex-Quagga routing daemon, and so on. And it's open. It's open for external people if you want to contribute. DKIX actually is also looking for Bachelor or Master of Science thesis writers, both on this topic and possibly other topics as well. So we've got GitHub, where we are collecting our experiences on our config examples on how you configure this stuff on different vendors, any discovered idiosyncrasies between different or in different implementations, and so on. And so you can go to that GitHub and look at the writings there. This presentation is also on that GitHub. And if you want to take a look at some implementation and write up, there's a page per vendor or per vendor platform there that goes through the basics. If you want to help us and write that stuff for a certain vendor, then we accept pull requests. And we've also got a mailing list and a Mattermost channel where we talk about these things. Yeah. So, as I said, there are challenges. The initial implementations from many vendors were aimed mostly at VPNs rather than internet traffic. So, so it was more internal than external routing. So interoperability hasn't been tested before us. We are now testing interoperability. And using IPG Nexthop is Nexthop self is more important now because you might have other routers in your IPGP mesh that don't understand IPv6 Nexthops. So the edge router will need to renumbering so that it makes sure that the whole network understands where to send the traffic. And so on. I could go on and on about all the stuff we've found. But I think the main point here is that we are doing the work now so that a few years down the line, when this becomes more and more relevant to others, we will hopefully have at least found all the problems and hopefully made the vendors aware of them, hopefully even gotten them fixed. So when it comes to timeline, my advice is that you shouldn't just do this for the heck of it. Rather, what you should consider is that when it comes time to renumber, you ask yourself, do you want to renumber to other IPv4 addresses, or do you want to renumber into IPv6? And I think an important point here is also that most of the IXP members already have IPv6 sessions, peer groups, whatever. So when it comes to renumbering, this isn't actually necessarily a renumbering. Rather, you just get your existing IPv6 BGP sessions and add a new address family into those sessions with the certain setting that enables the IPv6 Nexthops for IPv4 routes. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Aleksi? No? Well then please join me thanking Aleksi for a fantastic presentation. Thank you, Aleksi.